as the Eagles fan.
Well, that's what happens when you get rid of Carson. I'm really not that good at football, Wentz.
God, look.
I'm sorry, man.
Dude, I have look. I love the man. I've defended the man, but what I witnessed in Duval County last weekend, like, to be clear, it wasn't just Wentz. The entire team played like shit, but he didn't help.
Now, when you're paying a quarterback $30 million, you would hope that he can elevate the team.
I think
instead of, helping them be bad.
Like, man, this would shock me, or at least it would have shocked me even going into the game, just based off of what they paid for him and that he had been mostly fine this year. I mean, up until week 14, he was actually good. Like, from week 4 through 14, he was 5th in the whole league in EPA. He was a QB1 in fantasy, and it looked like he had really been a nice dynasty profit for people who had gone after him this past winter. And then starting with that New England game, his play fell off the face of the earth. He was horrendous in that game. They won anyways because of Taylor and the defense. And then he plays a really inconsistent game against Arizona where he was mostly bad, but he had one brilliant drive with one incredible pass, and that was kind of good enough. And the last 2 games, man, I mean, the Raiders game, he was an abomination. The Jaguars game, he was an abomination. I mean, the Jaguars game, I think he had one positive play the entire game. He was so bad. And now I don't even know if he's going to be back as a starter. I mean, I think that he probably will be, just due to like a dearth of other options. We don't have a first-round pick because, of course, we traded it for Wentz. And I don't know who that's available, is actually better than Wentz outside of like Rodgers and Wilson, where, again, we don't have a first-round pick. So, like, you move Wentz and you insert what? Cousins, Jimmy G? Like, you have the same problem where you have an average quarterback you're paying too much.
I mean, Cousins is better than Wentz.
Yes, he is, but he doesn't solve the fundamental problem, which is that you should pay
you're just
too much for average quarterback.
Well, that's what I was going to say. At best, you could make that move. I'm sure Minnesota would be okay with it because they'd save, $15 million at least in 1 year. And I think you can get out of Wentz's deal. When can you get out of Wentz's deal?
I don't know. Never. I don't know.
Never. Yeah, he's been a poison pill in 2 organizations now. And look, I was there with you, man. Not this year, but I've been down the Wentz road where you're defending the guy. You want to like him, but his teammates don't even like him. It doesn't matter, and it has to be him, right? At this point, like, there's ex-Colts that are just trashing him. Frank Reich came out.
Okay, there's not ex-Colts that played with Wentz that are trashing him. Like, Jeff Saturday is trashing him.
Okay,
I'm not sure the Jeff Saturday. Okay. I don't know how much he talks to people in the current locker room.
After the end of last season, Frank Reich asked about Phillip Rivers. He said, I hope to God he comes back next year. Yes, he's going to be our starting quarterback. Yeah. When he was asked about Wentz, he was like, "Oh, I'm not gonna comment on individual players right now." Your quarterback is not an individual player. Like, your quarterback, your franchise quarterback should be a slam dunk.
He's an individual, and he made a personal decision.
That should be that
he made a personal decision to play like complete trash.
The comment that should be coming out of if it's referring to your franchise quarterback, the comment that should be coming out of your coach's mouth is like, "Of course he is. Who the fuck else? Are you kidding me? He's our franchise quarterback." Frank Reich already doesn't believe that.
That's the problem with the Colts is they have a bunch of franchise players at positions that don't matter. They have like one of the best guards, one of the best running backs, one of the best middle linebackers, and one of the best defensive tackles in the league, which is like 4 players that are arguably in the top 3 at their position in arguably the 4 least important positions outside of like kicker and fullback, which is unfortunate.
So here's my take. I mean, it'd be a whole different like animal if like the Jaguars were actually bad on defense, but the Jaguars are obviously a very, very good team, one of the elite ones who, kicked one of the best playoff teams out of the playoffs. So I don't understand why everybody's so up in arms about, the Jaguars beating the Colts. It just doesn't make any sense to me. It's not like the Jaguars are such trash.
Clown costumes. I was in grade 11 the last time the Colts won in Jacksonville. There's something in the water there.
Well, that wasn't that long ago. That was, 4 years ago? Let's go ahead and kick this show off.
is Fantasy Intervention. Now here to intervene with your fantasy life, Shane Manila, Jacob Sanderson, and Chase Vernon.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. Oh,
hey,
Shane, the music is done.
We changed names.
It's Dynasty, goddammit.
Oh, it's Dynasty
The
Intervention.
season's over. It's now Dynasty Intervention.
It is. It's Dynasty Intervention. It's our first episode of Dynasty Intervention where we break down all sorts of fun things that actually pertain to the people that actually enjoy football year-round and not just for a few months every year. So if you're not in a Dynasty league, if you're not, part of a Dynasty organization, you should probably join one because they are a blast. Jacob's in 2 startups already that I know of. Shane is in 50 different Dynasty leagues. He had to drop one already as it is because he's afraid that he'll never win a trophy.
I am down to 28 and then 20, 30.
Carry the one.
35. Either 35 or 37.
I was in 34 this past year, and I'm already up to 36.
No, I'm not joining any.
My problem is that I'll never drop a league. I'll probably just never drop a league because the only way I would ever allow myself to drop a league is if I'm the defending champion, because then I feel like I can drop a league guilt free. But I absolutely look at the people that are dropping leagues because they can't manage all their leagues. That's fine, whatever, I get it. But there's so many people that will brag all about their dynasty titles. And then you look and see, and they're like, oh, orphan available, 22 firsts or 23 firsts, all Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Zeke Elliott, right? And it's like, oh, I wonder why you're orphaning that dynasty team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
so I
because
just
they
want to be one
ahead.
of those people.
They get ahead, they trade well with their assets, and they're like, oh, I don't want that team anymore. I'm good. I was actually talking about that with somebody earlier, but.
People.
We did have some moves that happened. We have some news that we actually have to, keep the public up to date with. And if you live under a rock, obviously there's been Black Monday with some coaching changes. So Black Monday, right, is a year every single year.
Why do they call it Black Monday? Is it that when the NFL becomes profitable?
That's what I think it is. It's when the league, very similar to Black Friday, when they go from the red into the black and they get rid of all their negative coaches, the coaches that bring teams down, and they bring in positive coaches, which they think is positive at all times, but that's never actually really the case. But back to what I was saying, this year feels like one of the best years I've ever seen for opportunities for head coaches to move into, right? I mean, last year there might have been only one team that rivaled any of the 6 teams that have head coaching vacancies, and that was the Chargers. Outside of that, I mean, the Jaguars, right, were probably number 2 last year, but the Jaguars are once again open this year, and they have the same exact roster, if not better roster, with the same draft picks essentially. I mean, I see Jacob not.
Yeah, but we thought that Trevor Lawrence was good last year, and now it turns out that he's Trevor Rosen.
He outplayed former MVP candidate Carson Wentz.
Well, you know what? Not a big accomplishment. Even Mac Jones did that.
Either way, Trevor Lawrence is somebody that I mean, this could be the whole Adam Gase effect essentially with Urban Meyer. I mean, things really just look crazy for Trevor Lawrence where things just were not lining up right. So Trevor Lawrence, I still believe, is a top dynasty asset. So let's actually start with that. Let's talk through the rookie quarterbacks. I think that's a good starting point that I did not put on the show sheet. Where do the rookie quarterbacks from 2021
I didn't read the show sheet
rank?
anyway, so that works.
Oh yeah, I didn't. We have a show sheet.
That's obvious.
I
do a
literally
bunch of work, and then
find
you
it.
guys just throw it in the trash.
I couldn't even. I would have to read it to throw it in the trash. I couldn't even find it. I actually tried, but I couldn't even see it.
Biggest.
Anyway,
shocker.
you want to talk about the rookie quarterbacks?
I want to talk about the rookie quarterbacks. I want to bring this in. Like, how do you guys have the quarterbacks ranked going
it's not on the show
forward?
Sheet.
It's not. It's not on the show sheet. That's what I just said. It's not on the show sheet, but you guys would know anyways.
This is really good. This is good podcasting, guys. I would rank Lance first. Basically, just I think Lance, Lawrence, Fields were all kind of in a tier for me coming into the season. We saw a lot from Lawrence, and all of it was bad. And then Fields, we saw, I think, a little bit more of a mixed bag, but still not overly inspiring. Whereas with Lance, we didn't see as much. I thought he looked pretty bad against Arizona. I thought he looked pretty good against Houston, for a rookie at least. But what we do know with Lance is he ran a million times when he was out there. We know his weapons are great. We know Shanahan's a great schematic coach. So Lance to me is the clear one. And then I would go with Fields, and then I would go with Lawrence, and then I would go with tough between the others because Mac Jones was really good for real life, but I so don't care about him in fantasy. I'd probably take Jones, I guess, over Wilson.
Wilson's obviously last.
And Davis Mills, sixth.
I like that because we saw absolutely nothing from Lance. That means he's good. So I'm going to go with Lawrence, Fields, Lance. But Fields and Lance, it's really close, to be honest with you. I like both those guys. Then McCorkle, who is an excellent QB2 in fantasy and will be, I'm sure, an excellent Super Bowl winning quarterback for the fucking evil New England Patriots. Then Davis Mills. Then Zach Wilson. Then were there any other rookies in the class? Sam Ellinger, was he a rookie?
Kellen Mond.
Kellen Mond. Ooh, yeah. You look.
They got a new coach. They got a coach that doesn't hate him. Maybe.
The GM. Oh wait, the GM's gone too. Well, the owner, big Kellen Mond fan. He did not like Mike Zimmer's snarky ass remarks regarding Kellen Mond.
No, he did not. Yeah. I think that's the whole reason why he actually got fired. So, real quick. I just want to pose a question for you, a little bit of a contrarian take, I guess, where we saw a little bit of production out of Zach Wilson towards the tail end of the season, and he actually looked really good to an extent for a rookie quarterback with no weapons. I mean, this whole offense the entire year, it wasn't just trash because of Zach Wilson. It was trash because the offense is trash. And, I mean, it was the Jets with a rebuilding team. But we started to see the plans and the scheme come together. It kind of felt like Zach Wilson was done a service by sitting out for an extended amount of time and watching other quarterbacks like White, like whoever the hell else was, Josh Johnson or whatever, actually play the system the way that it was meant to be played. Zach Wilson comes in and he played the system the way that it was meant to be played to an extent with no Corey Davis, with no Elijah Moore towards the tail end, and he looked okay. So I mean,
the way
my Wi-Fi cut while Chase was giving us ranks. So does this mean you have Wilson number one?
Yes, he has Wilson number one because Wilson learned that he needs to check down.
Yes.
And that's what you want from your quarterback in fantasy is just him checking down all the time.
No, I didn't say that. He's also does the run. But Mac Jones looks like the type of player that's going to be like a worse version of Derek Carr from here on out. Like, from week to week. Derek Carr's been a very, very good fantasy quarterback too. Like moving forward, he's finishing as quarterback 13, quarterback 15, quarterback 16. When it comes to two quarterback leagues, that's decent. I don't see Mac Jones finishing any better than quarterback 12 at any point in time in his entire career. I mean, is this something as to where like we could see Zach Wilson possibly, if it clicks, possibly progress past Mac Jones and kind of, be the fourth quarterback in this class?
Maybe. I mean, but we're talking the difference between QB 15 and QB 11.
Yeah.
But whatever, maybe we're talking 1.5 point difference, maybe. So I don't care enough to put that much thought into it. But I guess upside because of his mobility. I guess you go with Wilson.
Oh shit!
So I really wanted. Hey Brad.
Hey Brad.
I wanted to make this take because I've built such a air of hating on Mac Jones that I really wanted to take Zach Wilson over him, and I thought about it. But at the end of the day, like I feel like we just kind of think Zach Wilson has more upside than Mac Jones because he like throws it cooler. Like Mac Jones kind of looks like a trebuchet, whereas Zach Wilson flicks his wrist more.
Do you guys still use those up in Canada?
Trebuchets?
Yeah.
No, we actually haven't invented them yet, but I just hear about them online. The problem is that it doesn't really pass much muster, the Zach Wilson upside argument, because he had 2 games this entire season over 250 passing yards, and he had 0 games with more than 4 rushing attempts. So he's more mobile. I mean, we had the one crazy game where he had 91 rushing yards at a touchdown. I think that'll probably be his high in rushing yardage in a game for his career. And he had a couple other little scrambles, but this is not Trey Lance or Justin Fields. Like, it's not even Trevor Lawrence from a mobility perspective. So whatever you're getting in that over Mac is something where, yes, if he hits the same ceiling that Mac looks to hit as a passer, you'd probably rather have Wilson. But I think that's such a marginal difference in upside that I'd probably rather just take Mac, who at least we can be pretty confident now is going to be an NFL quarterback for a very long time.
All right, so let's hop over to these coaching changes, right? Because we had 6 of them happen, or 6 of them will be happening. And honestly, like, there is one shocker to me over any other one. And as we explore
Joe Judge.
Joe Judge was the one. As we look in a little bit further into it, it's like, he got fired for this reason and for that reason. And I think it's kind of like a bunch of bullshit to an extent. We had Brian Flores, right, who got fired from the Dolphins after leading his team to the first ever, 8 wins in a row after having 7 losses in a row, ended up splitting the N2, missing the playoffs. And Brian Flores is somebody who created a turnover-worthy defense, like a defense that just created turnover after turnover, that dominated for weeks and weeks on end, that just could not get the offense right. And we heard the rumblings, maybe he liked Tua too much. Maybe he didn't like Tua at all. Like, I've heard both.
Maybe he thought Tua was on steroids.
Whatever the case was.
That's the rumor I've heard, that he was demanding drug tests.
The only thing that we didn't hear was that he was doing cocaine in the office, while the other coaches were outside, putting, I guess, texting women and whatnot. But either way, we had a situation that was very strange. It was probably the most strange decision that I've ever seen throughout any head coach's tenure, where you anoint 2 offensive coordinators, but give neither one the permission to call plays. The plays were actually called by Charlie Fry, or at least that was the rumor, but Brian Flores never said who called plays on offense. So, I feel like that was kind of the downfall, where they didn't have any kind of organization on the offensive side. They had no figurehead that was taking control of the offense, that was making the decisions, and it left Tua on kind of like an open-ended, like, hey, it's your decision to make this XYZ, but it's really not your decision, because there's also 3 other people that are in charge of you that are kind of designing your plays. I just felt like it was very chaotic, which led to the firing. So moving forward, is Tua Tagovailoa in a better place now that Brian Flores is gone? Are the Dolphins in a better place now that Brian Flores is gone? What the hell is happening down there in Miami?
I think that Flores, based on the results, right, totally did not deserve to get fired. At the same time, I'm not entirely certain he's actually a good coach. Like, his defensive philosophy was basically running Engage 8 on Madden over and over and over again, and somehow it worked. I'm not really sure how, but that was basically what I felt like I was watching. I'm kind of dyslexic, so when I was young, I thought that play was called Engage Fight. Anyway. No, I think, you mentioned it. It was co-offensive coordinators. He did a bunch of janky crap with Tua in his rookie year, where he's starting him when Fitzpatrick was playing really well, but then pulling him from the middle of games, putting Fitz back in. There's all sorts of weirdness with Brian Flores. And in terms of, where they are at going forward, I'm not sure. I think that it's pretty possible Tua is out of Miami. I still think that there's a decent chance that that's where Deshaun Watson ends up. If they do keep Tua, then, he's in an okay spot, depending on the coach. It seems like they're looking at a lot of offensive coaches. And you bring that in with Jalen Waddle, who they just drafted, who looks like a stud with Tua. We'll see. What I did like this year is that they passed a whole heck of a lot. I don't know if that's going to continue. But they also probably need a new running back, because, Duke Johnson was the best running back on their team. My issue with Tua is not really the situation. It's just that he looks kind of like the new Baker Mayfield to me, where he's getting a lot of longevity priced in, and so he's still being valued in a lot of leagues as this high-end QB2, but he doesn't really run a lot, and he doesn't really throw deep a lot. And so it seems like all he's ever really going to be is a high-end QB2, and he is young, but he's also in a very turbulent situation. So I feel like that there's risk, and there's not a lot of upside, and you're kind of just paying for possible longevity. So I'm kind of out on Tua at cost.
Does Waddle actually benefit from the coaching change? And I'll let Shane take this and then, run with the other questions as well.
There's no way to know. He just set the target record for rookies. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really see anything being more advantageous than that, except maybe putting some air yards with those targets. So he's
Good
not
job, Shane.
basically Jarvis Landry.
Do you want to explain that to Mark Schlereth?
No, air yards aren't a thing. That was, Jesus Christ. Right? You know what? Never mind. Just
Cooper Kupp didn't see a lot of air yards. Just saying.
people are very upset with things like math and context. Like, yes, air yards by itself is probably not meaningless, but you use it for context, you fucking fat meathead. Anyway, sorry. Like, it's depressing because some fucking steroid using Midwest boy played football that I gotta listen to him fucking talk about football the rest of my life now. Like, that doesn't make him smart. Like, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Anyway, Jalen Waddle, I'd like to see a more progressive offense. He push the ball downfield a little more, maybe use him more as a deeper threat, or, on all areas of the field. Tua, there's no way to know because we've heard literally everything, right? We've heard that Flores didn't like him. We've heard that Flores did like him.
Yeah.
We've heard, just apparently it was clearly dysfunctional there because the GM said that. You know what I mean? They didn't fire Flores because of football reasons. They fired him because he couldn't speak to anyone up above him or below him, which, in management is pretty important. You need to be able to communicate with all levels. You can't just be like, I'm just doing my job and you bitches listen to me. I've tried that at work, and you end up in HR first.
You tried that on the show, I think.
Yeah.
You end up like Urban Meyer.
Yeah, you got to communicate.
Kicking your kicker.
Yeah, you just can't do it. So, I mean, in the end, I think it's okay for Tua. If he's going to be anything, he was going to be it under Flores or not, to be quite honest with you. He was going to outperform his coaching or he was going to flourish under his coaching. Nothing's different, really. He's going to have one more year to prove himself, right? A new coach is going to come in, and they're probably not going to. They don't think they have the capital to draft a quarterback this year, and really don't want to anyway. But they'll probably give him this year unless they can get Deshaun Watson, and then see if he's okay. But that's kind of what he is now. He's a guy that's going to be year to year. There's no real security there, and it's a shame because I liked him a lot coming into the season.
I think it's completely dependent as to whether or not he ends up going to Jordan Palmer in the offseason or not, because obviously everybody that goes to Jordan Palmer ends up getting fixed. But anyways, Jamal, what's going on, man?
Why don't they just hire Jordan Palmer as the coach?
They won't. He won't take the job because he's getting more pay. He's getting paid better for helping out being a quarterback guru, which, by the way, they are hating that term now.
I want to be a quarterback guru.
They're not quarterback gurus. They hate that term for whatever reason.
Yeah, but that's why I'll be it. If they don't like the term anymore, I'm fine with the term. I'll be a quarterback guru. I'll be a wide receiver guru. I'll be a fantasy analyst guru, any sort of guru. The Love Guru.
Yeah, The Love Guru was one of the top 5 movies of all time. I'm totally kidding. Anyways, Jamal in the chat, he said we helped him win 5 out of 7 leagues.
Oh, look at that.
Appreciate you coming in, man. He was here for 2 or 3 shows every single week, so we appreciate you joining in. And thank you for being part of Fantasy Football Discussion, man.
Hey, Jamal, if you're looking somewhere to spend that money, go join the Dynasty Trades HQ patron chat. That's what's up.
And if you're looking for somewhere to spend money, go to Trophy Smack right now.
Or go to Trophy Smack.
I was getting the trophy. I was waiting for Shane to say something smart ass, but it didn't last long enough. You go to Trophy Smack, right? TrophySmack.com. Use promo code CIRCLE over there, and you'll actually get a belt or a trophy. You get a free ring along with it, right? You just got to make sure that the ring and the belt are in your cart together, and then you put in promo code CIRCLE. You'll get a free ring, get the belt and a trophy, with the ring. Go to TrophySmack.com. Anyways, let's go ahead and head over to the Broncos situation, which I also thought was somewhat shocking until I heard the comments that he made after the game.
We made the exact same face at the exact same time.
All right,
you
so
said the Broncos were shocked, and Shane and I both instantly did this.
Okay. So I don't think that Vic Fangio did a great job with the Broncos, but
or
at the same time,
or a good job.
He had his number 1 wide receiver,
acceptable job,
in Cortland Sutton injured, right? For all of 2000. Let me present my case. For 2019 or 2020 or whatever, he had his primary wide receiver hurt the entire time. Jerry Jeudy was coming along and needed to develop. He had no quarterback at any point in time. And you can't win the NFL without a quarterback. Meanwhile, his defense was completely dismantled over the course of 2 years, including Von Miller getting traded off for rebuilding pieces and for salary cap space so that they could build 2021, 2022. Now, I understand the factor, right, of trying to get an offensive coach who, of course, Aaron Rodgers would like and yada, yada, which Nathaniel Hackett, I think, would be a perfect fit. However, it's not like Vic Fangio did a bad job with this team in the time that he had it. I mean, he's taken a team that was completely depleted, like I said, by injuries, that it was very talent stricken, and still produced multiple games where they stayed competitive, where they remained relevant, and where they tickets throughout their season, and they had believers and fans, which is normally the deciding factor. Now, the reason why he got fired had to be the comments that he made following the last game of the season, where he said, "Hey, everybody else has a quarterback in our division. We don't have one." I mean, in not verbatim, but
I mean,
broad sense.
Okay, Drew Lock, they did draft in the second round, right? I mean, Drew Lock, I don't think is especially good, but you know what? You're the coach. Make sure that he's fucking coached better. Teddy Bridgewater might not be classically trained good quarterback, but he's at least a game manager. So how about this? How about you lean on fucking Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams for 45 rushing attempts a game, if that's a problem. If you're complaining about the wide receivers, even though he still had Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, and Tim Patrick, and Noah Fant last year. This year he had Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant, and not KJ Hamler,
Alberto,
and Tim Patrick and Alberto. That's a pretty good offense. If you can't design an offense that you should, I understand he's a defensive coordinator, then get an offensive coordinator in there that can scheme an offense or can get the quarterback to be able to use any of those weapons. I mean, they paid those wide receivers $300 million this offseason. The team should have been better. And it wasn't just those comments. Vic Fangio makes dumbass comments all year. He's not a bright guy.
Yeah, I don't think he got fired because of those comments. I think he made those comments because he knew he was getting fired.
Yeah.
And he felt like taking a shot at Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock on the way out.
It's classy. You gotta respect that.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fangio was really good at the part of the job that he should be doing for another team, which is being a defensive coordinator. He's a great defensive coordinator. Guy knows defense. I would never take that away from him. But he was going into the last year coaching for his job, and according to beat reporters in Denver, he went to the GM and he said, "I don't want a rookie. I want Teddy Bridgewater. Go trade for Teddy Bridgewater. Retready Bridgewater." And I mean, I guess that just kind of tells you everything I need to know about where Fangio's head is at, is that, what he thinks wins in the NFL is Teddy Bridgewater, which means he thinks we just want to run the ball as much as possible. We want to play slow. We want to play close games, avoid turnovers, and try to win a bunch of field goal games. And when they played a bunch of field goal games, they lost more of them. It's just you're at a capped ceiling, and it just feels like he's not a forward-thinking person. He's not taking the risks that you want to take to be a leading head coach in the NFL. And he's just, I think, a little bit out of step with where the modern NFL is heading. So I hope that we get a more exciting head coaching option in Denver, or at the very least, a defensive head coach that is just more willing to listen and delegate. I mean, there's plenty of awesome head coaches in this league that aren't offensive head coaches. Jim Harbaugh is not an offensive head coach. Bill Belichick's not an offensive head coach. But there's a lot of defensive or special teams based head coaches that have proven that they're willing to listen to other people who have ideas about how things should go. And there's nothing that has shown to me that Fangio is that kind of person. That's rude. Ball is life. Mac Jones is better than Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah.
That's rude. Chase, you're on mute.
Chase,
that was
you're
weird.
on mute. You're supposed to host the show. You can't host a show if you're on mute.
You're very right, Shane. You're very right. So with Vic Fangio moving on, they could bring on Nathaniel Hackett, which has been a big rumor that, hey, they're going to go get the quarterback coach, who spends a ton of time with Aaron Rodgers, to come over and coach the Broncos. Now, regardless if they get Aaron Rodgers or not, do you think that's a good move for the organization moving forward? Do you think Nathaniel Hackett is the guy that should be taking over as a head coach after being a quarterback coach? Are we looking at Jim Zorn 2.0?
He's the right coach if it means they get Aaron Rodgers.
For what, a year or two?
Well,
Yeah.
Any coach where if the answer is if we hire Coach X, we get Rodgers, but if we hire Coach Y, we don't get Rodgers, then you should hire Coach X because Aaron Rodgers matters a lot more than any coach, in my opinion. Hack it on his own? Can he hack it? I don't know. He was pretty bad in Jacksonville. He got ran out of town there. Then he landed with LaFleur, who's quite a good offensive mind, it seems, and he's done a good job in Green Bay. But how much of that is Nathaniel Hackett versus how much of that is Matt LaFleur? I don't know. I'm just not sure how many levels we can go down this Shanahan-McVay industrial complex because it seems like there are quite a few really sharp guys from that tier, but then there's also just guys that have somehow gotten hired by them and look like them and order the same light beers as them on 30s night at the local saloon. I'm just not 100% sure if Hackett's actually one of the sharp ones or if he just ended up in the right place at the right time.
Are we sure those guys aren't from the Zach Taylor tree?
Yeah, well, Taylor, I think
Taylor's from the McVay tree.
Right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, there's all these guys, right? It started with Kyle Shanahan, and then on to McVay, and on to Taylor, and on to LaFleur, and it's like, how far do we go, you know? When is that nerdy Mike McDaniel going to be a head coach?
As long as they have young white offensive coordinators on their staffs, that tree is going to live forever.
Oh, my God. All right, so on to the Vikings. The Vikings have an interesting situation because they let go of one of the best GMs possibly in football.
How was he one of the best GMs? How many Super Bowls have they won? Who signed Kirk Cousins to such an onerous deal that you had to cut half your fucking defense? I don't think that was Zimmer.
Kirk Cousins, by the way, did not take up a massive aspect of their salary cap. I mean, he only counted for $30 million against cap. That's not massive when it comes to multiple other quarterbacks.
After they had but you remember 2 years in a row now, they've had to do some cap magic where you can't actually use any of the money that you're saving because you're just trying to get under the cap. And you had to cut 19% to 30% to roughly 50% of your defense just to stay under the cap. That's not good GMing.
This team
what were the options, though? At the time that happened, they were picking at the 130. They had just gone to the conference championship. Yes. Their other options were sign Case Keenum, who got like $20 million a year, right? Roll with Teddy Bridgewater, who we just talked about, draft a quarterback at the 130, or sign Kirk Cousins.
I mean,
Cousins was great.
I think they made the right choice.
No, I mean, that's fine, but you could have, look, I'm not a GM, but anytime you have to restructure a quarterback's deal 2 years in a row, you've done something bad with that contract. When you can't afford to pay other players on your roster, you've done something bad with that contract.
That's not necessarily true. I mean, the reality was they were going.
Was it an exploding contract? He didn't know it was going to happen.
No, I'm saying what they did was they guaranteed a certain percentage to go front end.
They restructure their entire roster every year.
Yeah, literally, and you have to go through the restructuring period in order to get back under. But it's kind of like
restructuring period is actually one of the lesser known periods in Impressionist art.
It is.
I don't know what that is.
It's a period as to where it lasts one.
After Vincent Van Gogh lost his ear, he went through the restructuring period.
I don't know what any of these words are.
Either way, it was a situation as to where, hey, they went for the gold, right? They ended up going for the playoffs at the time. They front loaded a bunch of contracts, and then they ended up having to rebuild. And I didn't think the rebuild was that bad. They went through a year of turmoil maybe, and then this year they were still somewhat competitive to an extent. If it wasn't for the injuries in the secondary, they still would have been competitive and going for the playoffs this year. So you have
Jesus Christ, you make so many excuses for these motherfuckers.
If
it wasn't for the injuries.
I'm with Chase, man. I think Spielman knows what's
one bad year since 2007, 2008, 2006. This is one bad year for the Vikings. He was a very, very good GM.
Okay, so then by that same rationale, Zimmer should still be there.
No, Zimmer sucks.
Wait,
Zimmer is a caveman.
Zimmer's had one bad year.
So
Zimmer's had one bad season in 10 years?
No, because I'm not results based guy. I'm looking at process based guy.
Yes.
And you look at Spielman's decisions, and I think what he does makes sense. He focused on the right details. He's not the GM that trades up all the time. He's the GM that trades back all the time. He's the GM that takes positions that matter in the first round and takes other positions later. He's not, other than Cousins, which I think was a little bit necessary at quarterback, he's not usually out there signing free agents to absurd deals. Zimmer, however, is like an absolute archaic Neanderthal who
Wait, did you read this?
No, but archaic is just the right word for him. I mean, I don't know how many Vikings games I need to watch where they get a lead because Kirk Cousins is dealing like the hero that he is. And then all of a sudden they go into a shell and start running into the line a million times, give up the lead. They're now tied. And then Cousins has to go and lead a drive to either tie the game or take a field goal lead, whatever. And then the other team comes back and wins. And that's every Vikings game. Like that's every single Vikings game.
Yeah, I don't want anyone to think that I think Mike Zimmer's good because he's absolutely fucking just trash. Just an absolute garbage can. But I don't know, Rick Spielman, whatever. It's a result-oriented business. How many Super Bowls have you won? Last time I remember,
he has not produced bad seasons. The issue has been that they stuck with Mike Zimmer too long, and this is where I stand on the coaching situation. Is we have the Marvin
back next year? Not particularly.
We have Marvin whatever, right, for the Bengals,
Lewis.
Marvin Lewis, who produced multiple good seasons overall. They gave him the tools, they gave him the assets that he needed, yet he wasn't able to produce. And the same exact thing happened with Zimmer, where he was given the tools, he was given the assets, but he did not produce. Now, when it comes to progressively thinking, I think that Spielman was still stuck with it. And I think that Spielman will probably be the first guy to get a phone call when it comes to GM positions, or at least one of the first GMs to get hired. So regardless, we have Zimmer leaving town. We have a different GM coming in. Is this something as to where we have to expect Justin Jefferson and the rest of this offense to take a step back in order to incorporate a new system, to incorporate, a different level of efficiency?
Wait. Well, let me ask you this.
Team.
Is the new offense going to be the wing T?
The leading candidate right now.
The wishbone?
The leading candidate right now for the job is Kellen Moore, which if that happens and Cousins stays, then I'm going to be very excited about Cousins and Jefferson next year.
Yeah, any coach that comes in there, I'm thinking he's going, oh my God, I have Justin Jefferson. You know how many times I'm going to throw the ball to Justin Jefferson? It's going to be absurd.
I'm pretty pumped for the post.
That's my offensive scheme would just be, how do we get him the ball 15 times a game? Like that would be the whole
as quarterback
scheme.
in the wing T.
Yeah.
I just want to see his touchdown celebration more often. No, but is this something as to where like he's going to be the focal point? Could they bring assets on? Is there anything that would scare you away from Justin Jefferson?
Scare me? No. I guess like not be quite as into would be if they move Kirk Cousins and then he gets stuck with a rookie quarterback, which might be a wise move for the franchise, but just purely from Justin Jefferson's perspective, say what you want about Cousins, but he's totally acceptable as the quarterback for a fantasy wide receiver. And if they bring in a rookie, the rookie will probably be bad because most rookies are bad in the first year.
Rookies are bad. That is true.
Is there anything that would scare you away, Shane? Or are you solely
no, I mean, I would welcome the dip of a bad quarterback play for a season or a rookie quarterback play for a season because Dynasty, our memories are as short as I don't remember what I was talking about, but we have short memories. So we'll completely forget how good he is. If he's tied to a rookie quarterback for a year and struggles, it'll be his fault. Like we'll find a way to blame him for it and it'll be fun. And I'll just get him in every dynasty league that I can. So I'm kind of hoping that happens. But if he ends up with a rookie, maybe he gets one of the good ones, like a McCorkle Jones that's ready day one, as opposed to a Trevor Lawrence who isn't ready until week 18. But you never know.
All right. Do you guys feel like in any way, shape, or form that Rodgers could potentially make a switch and go and pull Brett Favre, end up with the Vikings, and win the Super Bowl with the Vikings?
No.
Maybe 2 in a row.
No, but I'll tell you what, I would love to see Justin Jefferson with Aaron Rodgers. That would be a lot of fun.
Oh my God, wouldn't it?
Maybe Deshaun Watson. How's he feel about Minnesota? Is that on his no trade list? Do they have extradition there? I mean, these are the important questions you need to ask.
Yeah.
You know what? That's actually not a terrible take. Like if Minnesota actually went and tackled like Deshaun Watson to go play over there, and the Texans would be willing to take Kirk Cousins to fill in as a bridge quarterback. I don't know.
I would really enjoy Brandon Cooks with Kirk Cousins too, actually.
Oh my goodness, that'd be a pretty wicked offense. Oh wait, I'm just adding them all together. Never mind. I was bringing Brandon Cooks over to Minnesota with Deshaun Watson. It's going to be Deshaun Watson, and he's going to have
I'm fine with that
Justin
too.
Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and Brandon Cooks.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Why not?
Oh my
Sign
God.
Will Fuller too. He can follow Deshaun wherever he goes.
All right. So let's
He'll
go
give you
ahead.
2 or 3 great games.
So let's go with a team that I think could actually make a play for Rick Spielman. And this, as being a Washington fan, I don't want this to happen, but the Giants can make a play for Rick Spielman. And
Anything's
bringing,
better.
I'm sorry.
Anything is better than what they had.
Yeah,
Oh,
really. Like,
100%.
even though I think Spielman's just above mediocre. Even though you're happy with being competitive because apparently you got participation trophies when you were a kid. I'm and I like.
Do they have
winning.
those at Trophy Smack?
They have participation ribbons, which you can find at TrophySmack.com.
God.
Use promo code CIRCLE.
Circle. Anything is better than just what they've gone through. Like Dave Gettleman, I know, like it's hard to remember all the good times he gave us. Like when he talked about how good their spreadsheets were. When he thought analytics meant spreadsheets. Data don't score points. I mean, there's just so many times we have Gettleman that I'm really gonna miss him. But yeah, anything's an improvement. Like you could bring in Urban Meyer, and I'd be like, well, that's a step up from Joe Judge at least, and David Gettleman.
It is too
Hollywood
bad.
Titans
Like,
in the chat, by the way.
it's just what's up, Hollywood Titan?
You
It sucks, man. Like we have less idiots every year, you know? And one of the great pastimes that we've had as sports fans the last decade is just making fun of idiots who are allowed to run franchises. And in all sports,
but
hockey, football,
Freaking
basketball,
analytics and baseball screwed up for all of us.
right? Like there's still a lot of normal dumb because there's a lot of dumb people who don't go out of their way to say the dumb things that they're thinking, and thus they keep getting hired, right? But the ones who actually come out and just say how dumb they are, like Gettleman and Judge, I mean, we don't get that much access to it, right?
So, but there's always, it's like, again, like plate tectonics. Joe Judge replaced Freddie Kitchens, right? Now someone's going to
No. He hired.
No.
Freddie
I'm
Kitchens.
saying in the stupidity, just in
Yes,
the stupidity.
and then Joe Judge hired him.
but just in the stupidity tectonics.
Yeah.
So someone's going to come along. One of these coaches is going to get hired. We're going to love him, and then he's going to say some shit about biting kneecaps and eating.
Dan Campbell has done a great job.
Dan
I'm just
Campbell
saying.
did nothing wrong. Dan Campbell is the
saying.
king.
There's going to be at least
11-6 against the
Playing
spread.
rock, paper, scissors.
at least 1 or 2 of these hirings in 3 years, we're going to look back and go, wow, that guy was a fucking moron. Like, how did he even make it out of his house every morning? I don't understand.
Jamal said, don't forget about Gettleman always talking about
Molly's.
Molly's.
Do you think Gettleman was on Molly?
That was definitely. He was talking about raving. New York. Look, he was in New York. He was living that life. He couldn't be
With a
bothered with
sweater
running
vest.
a successful. Yeah, he wasn't going to run a successful football organization. He had raves to get to.
Oh my God. All right. So the Giants, they moved on from Joe Judge, which he established. It was weird, man. It felt like Joe Judge was in over his head the entire year. They brought in Garrett.
He tried to convince the media why he wasn't doing a bad job after week 17 when they lost.
Players that aren't here anymore, they call me all the time. They say, man, I really wish I was with the Giants.
He's talking about guys that were like cut out of the league, right? Like Kelvin Benjamin.
So bizarre. It was so bizarre how he sat there and he's like, they were like, hey, he's gonna have one more meeting with us to convince us that he can do great, and then we'll make a decision. Dude, like you make a decision like week 15 at the latest where like, okay, he's gone. Like there's some impulse takes, like maybe the Vic Fangio, maybe the Brian Flores, but I mean they had to decide that Joe Judge was out.
Apparently after week 15 he still had a job. It was after the 10-minute rant where he explained why he wasn't doing a bad job, and then running 2 quarterback sneaks, not draws, sneaks from his own fucking 5 air yards. That the front office was just like, yeah, we can't do this. Like, this is just embarrassing.
Yeah. I think it was Cooper Adams on Twitter who said that like it's pretty it's a pretty tough look for the Giants basically to just say that have the plans that they were going to keep this guy, and then because of 2 weeks, all of a sudden change their plans. And I was like, in most cases, I'd agree with you, but did you see those 2 weeks?
That's that's like saying, look, my neighbor, for the most part, he's a great guy, except he's a serial killer. Like, you know what I mean? Little things matter. They do matter.
Right?
There's 2 weeks are a pretty big deal.
They lost a game by 26 points to the Bears, in which they had 11 passes and 39 runs. Right? Like he's
like, I just wanted to minimize the damage.
Yeah, he was just like, surrender. It's fine.
See, there are people that
Giants
say things. There are people that say things like Vic Fangio, right? Like, hey, I don't have a fucking quarterback. And then there are people that do things. Like Joe Judge. He's like, I don't fucking quarterback.
He did both, but
he also said a lot of those
things.
He
said stupid shit and he did stupid shit. So
he is a stupid shit.
He's just clearly not that intelligent. He's not he's not good. He's an excellent special teams coordinator, so maybe he can go do that.
No, Judge is basically the gym teacher who wound up being a houseless person in Seinfeld who would yell, "Can't stand ya," to George Costanza. That's like essentially what I think of when I think of Joe Judge.
Seinfeld is.
What do you mean? It's a television show.
It's on every.
For a lot of years.
Yeah, it's literally on every streaming service and on every one of them.
Yeah, but there's no way that you watch like Nick at Night.
What's Nick?
It's on Netflix.
He said, "What's Nick at Night?"
Netflix, Comedy Central.
On Netflix.
I'm
Yeah,
just
Nick
kidding.
at Night is
Shane,
great.
Shane, you're supposed to help me out on this.
Anyway,
He was
the
probably
most interesting
conceived during
conversation
Nick
to
at
me with the Giants, I haven't seen Nick at Night unless that's some sort of porn movie. Hi, I'm Nick at Night. Is it a porn movie?
No, man.
I'm just picturing like Nick at Day is, some wholesome show for the kids, but then Nick at Night.
It was for adult. It was just adult. It was just adult show.
You should ask your parents what Nick at Night are.
I don't think I will.
What did
Not
you
now.
hear?
Not
what
now.
Did you hear?
Not now.
He knows.
Nick at Night.
Balls'
Anyway,
life. Balls' life wants to know if Pete Carroll is next.
I hope so, man. I'm over Pete Carroll. He's Zimmer, but like handsome. I think the interesting thing with the Giants. What are we doing with Saquon in Dynasty? Because
I just read an article about it for Trophy Smack.
Well, tell us then. What are you doing with Saquon in Dynasty? I have my answer. And what do you think will happen to him? Is there a chance he gets traded?
So here's the deal. I don't think he gets traded up until 2020, the end of 2022. I just don't see it happening. The issue becomes like which offensive coordinator comes in, how they run the offense, what kind of mileage they put on them. But I mean, there's multiple teams that would take a player like this because of the way that the contracts are structured currently for other teams and put him into a veteran usage like situation. Like Atlanta makes a lot of sense. We have, I believe, God, who was it? I wrote this article about 2 or 3 weeks ago. But I think Seattle might have been one of them where like Chris Carson come off the books and they might want to bring in a veteran at that point.
Yeah, but now they have a better 2018 rookie running back.
They might. But I mean, this still, regardless, he's going to stick with the Giants for this year. And Byron Leftwich is somebody that I actually would think would actually increase his value a little bit because although I don't believe in Byron Leftwich as a head coach, I think that they would have to bring in a defensive coordinator with some experience, right? Very similar to what they did with like Wade Phillips with different teams. They did with what's another defensive coordinator? I can't think of one off the top of my head, but essentially they bring in an offensive-minded head coach. They pair him with a defensive assistant who has been a head coach. And I think that Byron Leftwich, the way that they're operating for Tampa Bay, I mean, you could see Saquon Barkley getting 60, 70 receptions a season and 200 plus carries, and his value would, if not say the same, would probably increase a little bit. Maybe not for dynasty purposes, but at least would pay out. So at this point, if I have Saquon Barkley, I'm holding on to him in hopes that they get a offensive coordinator who uses the running back in the receiving game. If not, I mean, if I want to move him just because I'm afraid that they won't, I mean, I would take like a first and a second for him at this point, and I wouldn't really care what the first would be. I mean, mid to late, to be honest with you.
Oh yeah, I like that because I'm so far off Barkley. Like he's a shell of what he was. Just all the injuries. He's not very impressive. I mean, if his name wasn't Saquon Barkley, if his name was Devontae Booker, he'd be on your waiver wire in dynasty leagues.
But his name is Saquon Barkley.
What's that saying? And that's all he is. He's a name. He's a remnant, a figment of your imagination.
Jacob, if you had Saquon Barkley, what would it take you to move off of him?
Like 2 firsts. So I'm not moving.
So you're never trading him?
No, I'm holding.
Okay.
I'm holding.
Yeah.
I'm holding. I just think, I mean, here's the thing, right? It's kind of the same point that others, I guess, are making for my boy Zeke, which is that is Saquon good? Not currently. He certainly wasn't this year, but I think it's okay. No, this drives me nuts. There's something that Twitter loves to do whenever a player who was legitimately awesome then becomes bad, either due to injuries or circumstances, and we act like they were never great. Like we did this with Odell Beckham, where people are like, if you think about it, he was actually kind of a bust his whole career. That's so stupid, right? Like,
okay,
now
Jacob,
again with Barkley.
Jacob, filibuster here. Kajana Carter was the absolute truth in college, by the way.
I'm sure he was.
He was not bad at all. It's just, unfortunately, he was immediately injured.
Right, but he never did anything
and then
in
a
the
trash
NFL.
can. But yeah.
And he went to Penn State too, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Anyway,
An undefeated Penn State team that was robbed of the national championship by Nebraska because that's when they had the
you're a Penn
APs.
State fan.
I'm not. I liked Penn State back then because that was before I knew that they were a pedophile factory.
Okay. Anyway, plays with Barkley. I think that he's going to get volume next year no matter what, because he's still going to be either he's going to be traded to a team that just gave up a legitimate asset to acquire him, or he's going to be on the Giants where he's still first or number 2 overall pick Barkley, and he's going to be under contract for a decent amount of money because that's the 5th-year option of a first-round pick. And so you're still going to see him get fed, similar to what we saw to Zeke this year. And so I think at worst, it's like going to be a slow realization of people being like, oh, shoot, he really is washed. In which case, it's a dangerous hold, but you're still getting a lot of points because running back doesn't really matter, and you can still put up fantasy points even if you're totally washed. And I think that there's a chance that he's not totally washed.
I mean, what was he, the RB 32 this year?
Yeah, but he was like injured for half the year. I mean, like,
what's
his worst
points per game?
Oh, he was terrible, but he was legitimately in like hell. Like I think his worst case scenario next year is if he stays healthy next year, is probably pretty similar to like Zeke this year, which is fine. And it sucks kind of, but I think that's kind of the floor, and the ceiling is that he gets his groove back.
Yeah, I'd
in
say
Jacob's defense, be like Alvin Kamara, right? The year that he had the high ankle sprain, right? His points per game were terrible. Although he was injured for part of the year, he wasn't injured the entire year, and it definitely dragged down his points per game average for the time up until an explosion. But I do want to bring up one more thing, then we can move off the Giants, and that's if they acquire the right offensive coordinator, and I would look into it, the right player or the right coach that could run the offense, whether it's Byron Leftwich or somebody else. I would keep an eye on Kadarius Toney, who's a young player who could be explosive. I would keep an eye on Kenny Golladay being a bargain. And I don't like Kenny Golladay at all, but he could be a bargain later for like a 3rd-round pick or something because he didn't produce all this year. Byron Leftwich had essentially the better versions of Kadarius Toney, of Kenny Galladay, of Darius Slayton. When you talk about Antonio Brown, you talk about Mike Evans, and you talk about
this is getting really offensive to those three at this point.
yes, 100%. I agree.
Tell Antonio Brown to his face he's a better version of Darius Slayton. See what happens.
Well, I'd get knocked the fuck out. So let's go ahead and move on before we continue this, and let's go ahead and move on to the Bears. The Bears are somebody that we're so happy. We're elated that Nagy's gone. Nagy has become the Adam Gase of all play calling.
It's the visor, man. If you wear a visor, you're an idiot.
Dude, it was so bad. But
you can't be bald and wear a visor. It's an oxymoron.
It really is stupid. But
also you should be wearing a hat to protect your head from the sun, so you don't get bald head cancer. So that's why you shouldn't wear a visor. But Matt Nagy's an idiot, so that's why you wore one. Look, that's great. Again, that's another one of those where that's just thank you. Just thank you.
So one of the coaches that I want to
not much to say. Good risk.
One of the coaches I want to propose as a replacement that, I mean, would be somewhat counterintuitive. However, he did coach a mobile quarterback in the past to fantasy success, was Jim Harbaugh, where Chicago doesn't have to go too far to look for a replacement. They're willing to pay the head coach a significant amount of money. I mean, Jim Harbaugh seems like the ideal replacement to go, coach Justin Fields. I don't love that concept, but I mean, when it comes to where the Bears actually like to focus their attention on when it comes to defense and, playing these close, non-turnover worthy games, I mean, Jim Harbaugh seems like a pick that they could make.
I'm just trying to remember what productive college quarterback production and wide receiver production he had.
None in college.
He had Tariq Black, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and another
Well, he had Andrew
five-star
Luck
recruit.
at college.
Okay, 36 years ago. I'm talking about recently when he had 3 5-star recruits.
Recently what he does is he kills 5 stars. He
does.
murderer.
Okay. So
in their eyes.
I would like him not to be there also because I don't want to have to figure out which one's John and which one's Jim like every time this year because I'm going to get it
Which
wrong.
one would you rather him be with? Like, I don't see another situation that I would like to see him in outside, and I think he's going to end up in the NFL this year. Outside of the Bears, I don't see a better situation for him.
I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about Fields. I want Brian.
I'm always worried about Fields.
Yeah, I want Harbaugh away from Fields.
But the Bears have never hired any kind of decent head coach who could actually get their quarterbacks any kind of relevance in the history of the organization.
I mean, Mark Trestman was pretty good for fantasy.
Oh, shut the...
Look, I got to support my CFL legend, Mark Trestman.
Is there anybody that could actually pull relevance that the organization would hire? Because they're not going to bring in an offensive guru again because they obviously failed with that the last time.
Well, they didn't bring in an offensive guru last time. They brought in a guy that couldn't call plays.
Sorry, my hands were full, but I said offensive guru, I
got you. Air quotes. Look at Jacob's frozen.
He did say Dable, by the way. So yeah. I hate Dable in this situation, although I like Dable. I just would rather him go to a team with a better organization that wants to support the offense.
Well, here's the thing. Buffalo before Jesus Christ, Sean, what's his
McDermott.
McDermott, before he got there, they were kind of a backwards ass organization, and especially offensively too. And I mean, the last 2 years, we remember them, letting Josh Allen throw all over the football field. But even prior to that, they were just that's not what they were. They didn't want to throw much. They wanted to run. So a good coach, a strong head coach, can come in and change the culture.
I agree with that.
I agree with that.
But I also think that didn't they let go of the GM too, right? What's his name?
Yeah, which thank God. I mean, Ryan Pace is a total disaster too.
So who could they bring in on the GM perspective? I mean, maybe one of the understudies for the
GMs.
Bills with Brian Dable?
I don't know, GMs.
I don't care.
The head of offense personnel is interviewing with multiple different teams right now for the Bills, and I think he could actually package himself with Dable. I would like to preserve that right.
Like that.
Okay.
I think that works for the Bears. I would
love to hire someone from the Bills. I think that the Bills are a well-run organization. I have no idea who underneath Brandon Beane is most responsible for them being a well-run organization. But if I had the capacity to identify such a person, I would like to hire them because I think that the Bills generally do things right.
Yep. Well, that's where Chris Greer came from. He was the understudy over there for the Bills prior to, and then he came over and tried to rebuild the same way for the Dolphins. But anyways, when it comes to the Bears, I feel like the bigger aspect of this has to come where they spend their free agency, where they spend their draft. And whichever GM they bring in has to focus on the offense in order for Justin Fields to be successful. Otherwise, I feel like Justin Fields could be set up for another bust career, essentially, if he doesn't get the right aspects. And do either one of you all think that Justin Fields can overcome a bad organizational transition for another few years?
I like Fields a lot. The problem with Fields is he's a mid-first round pick, not a early first-round pick, and the coach and the GM who drafted him are gone. So he has to succeed all by his lonesome next year, and if he doesn't, he probably loses his job, which is a little bit scary. So I think that Fields, the upside remains intact, but the downside risk is quite aggressive on Justin Fields. So I think I guess what I would urge with Fields is I'm still optimistic on him, but I think that there is danger of being take locked too long, and then you end up falling off a cliff because there's just no insulated value anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not many quarterbacks not many second-year quarterbacks are going to be able to survive another bad organizational change. Usually one's enough to kill you. So if they don't get this right, yeah, his career is probably not going to go very well.
All right, we'll answer one question real quick before we finish off with the last team and then go into our player predictions. Jamal wants to know, do we think the Raiders will fully hire Bisaccia? Yes, I knew that.
Call him the pizza guy.
And I love him too. Bisaccia as the head coach, win or lose up against the Bengals. And I think if they lose, I don't think there's a chance they bring him on. If they win, I don't know how they can move on. I think this is a very independent situation at this point.
For his sake, I hope they do, because frankly, whatever he was able to say to those people in the room to get them motivated and go out and win and finish so strong is pretty impressive. For fantasy sake, I hope not. They were actually quite fun the first month under Gruden. They were passing a lot. They were doing a lot of fun things, and then their offense got way less fun under Bisaccia. So I hope that he is fired, although for his sake, I hope he keeps the job.
I mean, I think he's probably going to keep the job, and I think we would see the offense expand again next year. And remember, he's taken over in the middle of the year, so he's going to be more conservative, and that's generally what happens when new head coaches take over. So maybe he's just getting that out of the way in this half run. And I don't know what he's saying to them either, but it's definitely not, hey guys, stop drinking and driving, because they just had the fucking someone else just got another DUI on that goddamn team.
No way.
Yeah, like a month ago, right? Not that long ago, even.
Less like a week ago.
Yeah,
I
like
think
a
their
week
name
ago.
was Hobbs. I don't know, something like
Yeah.
that.
You would think, of all teams,
Calvin or Hobbs.
No one should drink and drive, but you would think if you were a fucking Raider, that would be just bore into your fucking skull. But they might just decide, who knows what Mark Davis wants to do. You know what I mean? He might just decide after this year, like, all right, we got through this year, we survived, but we need to exercise every demon that's in this building. I think he's done enough, at least, though, that he's going to give himself at least some coaching prospects in the future, at least.
Yeah. It could be something like Dan Campbell, where Campbell got the interim job in Miami. He did a really good job as the interim coach and didn't end up getting that job. But I think what he did there ended up helping him land a job down the line. So maybe he turns out at some point. Are we going to make our game picks for this weekend here?
We got one more team.
Oh my gosh. Who?
We got to talk about Jacksonville.
No, we don't.
Haven't we talked about them enough?
Well, yeah, we've talked about them after they shit can Urban. Yes, it's better. It does not matter. It's better.
I think they're interesting because they should probably actually be a draw. But they're just going to hire Leftwich, right? It's too perfect.
I hate that Leftwich idea. I hate that concept.
Why?
Because you have an inexperienced coach going to an unstable organization. I feel like having stability is important. I think Brian Dable is the perfect guy.
So you want them to hire Bill O'Brien?
I want them to bring in Brian Dable, who's also developing quarterbacks at an insane rate.
You know who else is very experienced as a head coach? Adam Gase.
I do think that I think that Brian Dable would be a great choice. I'm just saying, from what I think is going to happen, I think that Shad Khan is probably hating life right now with all the clown costumes in the stands and just the general vibes of the team. I think that hiring Leftwich would just be really, really popular with the fan base. It'd get the good vibes going because he was a former player, former first-round pick. I just think it's really easily sellable to the fan base. And I think that they're a team that is craving good vibes, and he would bring the good vibes.
What fan base is left at this point? I feel like you have to win games. I feel like you have to bring in solid acquisitions.
Those people that always say Duval.
Oh, my. All right. Shane, is there anybody else that you have in mind?
No, it doesn't matter. Anyone is better, just not Joe Judge.
All right.
Could you imagine if Joe Judge ever got another coaching job, like a head coaching job?
Yeah.
I know he'll be like an Alabama special analyst now.
You know what's really funny was in his first press conference, right? People like Joe Judge. Like he was like down to like a T, like, oh,
I want to
this
be clear.
guy.
I never liked Joe Judge. He
But
always
I'm just
reminded me of
saying
a
he had very high
character from Full Metal
popularity.
Jacket.
He had very high popularity after his first, meeting, right? And then we have Dan Campbell and Nick Sirianni who come in and fucking just, they got the worst reviews in the entire world for their first press conferences, and yet they still have jobs, and they're actually kind of somewhat have decent.
Hey, I was early on this Campbell thing, man. Check my receipts.
I love Campbell.
I'm all in on Campbell. Sirianni, I thought was a total idiot, and I'm still not quite convinced that he isn't. But
no,
he's better.
Sirianni. Look, I trashed the shit out of that guy, but he's
He
smart
also
enough.
has a visor problem.
He does, but he has hair, so it's okay. And he wears a lot of weird highlighters on it. But Sirianni at least was smart enough to make adjustments to his
he did make adjustments.
His public speaking is probably never going to be a strength. It's just not. And that, probably people read a little bit too much into that at his press conference and some of his press conferences, but
And also, he also played what?
wide receiver.
He played
Rock,
horse.
paper, scissors.
He played horse with somebody.
Rock, paper, scissors. He says a lot of dumb shit. What it seems to be is he's just not very good at explaining things to the public. You know what I mean? Like when he gave that whole foundation speech to his team and then came out and told the reporters that they were talking about flowers. It was just kind of misconstrued. Anyhow.
Oh my God. All right. Let's go on with our playoff picks for the week.
Eagles.
We have all right.
Okay, so that's 1 of 6. How about we just go game by game?
Yes,
We'll go fast.
Hold on, let me pull up the
First game is Bengals Raiders. And we're gonna just so that people know what I said we were gonna do in the group chat, unless it's changing. We'll do this each week, and whoever has the most right by the end of the Super Bowl wins a trophy from Trophy Smack, right?
I like it.
Actually, I might be able to swing that.
Sweet.
I think I can swing that.
That might be. You better. Bitch.
Yeah, you are Trophy Smack.
Fuck you.
All right. I will take the Bengals over the Raiders because the Bengals have a lot of good players and the Raiders have less good players.
Yeah. Also the Bengals.
Hold on, I'm typing this up as we're going. Yeah, I'm taking the Bengals as well.
Okay. Then the next game up on the docket is the Bills and the Patriots, and I will take the Bills because they play football from 2021, and the Patriots are running the wing tee.
I'm already taking one upset. I'll go with the Bills.
You're one upset for the entire slate. All right, cool. And I'm taking the Bills as well. All right, what game we got next?
The next game up on the docket is the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is one of my upset picks. I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles.
I'm sure everyone saw that tweet like the last 8 times that the number 1 rushing offense faced the number 1 passing offense. The rushing offensive team won, even though most of their stats are from like the 40s.
Establish it.
But yeah, I'm gonna take the Eagles because I'm a homer.
Homer. I like this Eagles thing. The Tampa Bay beat up. They got injuries.
We talked about this last night.
We talked about this on the DFS show, Chase and I did, where we thought the Eagles have much better. I mean, I'm not sure if I would take the Eagles. I would take the Eagles money line, but I'm smashing Eagles plus 8.5. I think that they're really live to win this game.
Wait, you're taking the Eagles though in this one, right?
Yeah, I'm taking them straight up. I think Tampa's too beat up.
Right, I'm taking the Bucs because it's the Bucs at home, and although Tom Brady's home is actually in New England, I'm still taking Brady at home for the Bucs. All right, what game we got next?
San Francisco at Dallas, in my opinion, the game of the week. And I hate to do this because it's very much against brand, but I'm going to take Jim G and the 49ers.
The fuck?
Once again, we actually talked about this in our show last night where I don't know how either team is going to stop each other, which makes me want to take the 49ers, but I'm going to take Dallas in hopes of a turnover. So Dallas is the team I'm taking.
It feels like Diggs is going to just be taking Jimmy G's lunch.
I hope so. God, I hope so.
So I'm gonna go with the Cowboys.
Yeah, my reasoning for the Niners is just as Chase and I said on the DFS show. There's a lot of
Go ahead.
there's a lot of exploitable matchups on both sides here.
It's
But if I'm just looking at what coach I trust more to exploit them, Kyle Shanahan versus Mike McCarthy, I'm leaning on Shanahan.
It's crazy.
The next game up, I can't imagine anyone's picking the upset here. Big Benjamin Todd Roethlisberger Sr. Up against the Kansas City Chiefs. I'll be taking the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. I don't even want to mention the rapist's name. So let's go Chiefs.
If there was any game that I think could be an upset of significant value, it'd be this one. But I'm not taking it. There's no chance in hell.
If you want to take Steelers, we'll give you double points.
Nope, not doing it. It's going to fuck me over in the future.
And then the last game, Monday Night Football, first playoff game of Monday Night Football in a long time / ever. I don't even know.
Yeah.
The Arizona Cardinals against the Los Angeles Rams. And once again, I'm going to think this comes down to coaching, and I will take Sean McVay over fake sharp Cliff Kingsbury.
Yeah, just Arizona completely fell apart the second half of the year. Just nothing about them feels good. I don't like anything about the Rams. I don't like Sean McVay. I think he's a douchebag. I don't like Matt Stafford.
You're probably one of those Stafford's actually not that good type of people, aren't you?
Well, he's actually not because he's a fucking garbage can. We thought he'd step his game up when he had better weapons. Nope, this apparently is all he ever was. But all that said, yeah, you got to take the Rams here.
In Arizona in this one, I think that the quarterback play is going to determine the outlook, and Kyler Murray's a better quarterback than Matt Stafford, although I love Matt Stafford. So I have it typed down. We're in there.
All right. Jamal, we discussed this at the top of the show, man. Not great, Bob. Not great, Jamal.
Yeah, but you guys got a solid backup in Sam Ehlinger. So, I mean, he can step up next year, right? 2022 for you.
Yeah, I hate where the Colts are. They're in no man's land. Their roster's too good to tank, and Wentz holds them back from being an actual contender. And they're just going to be 8-8 until one of those things changes, and I know which one won't change, which is Wentz.
8-9 or 9-8.
Yeah, one of the two.
Game schedule, yeah.
Or 8-1.
Yeah.
All right, folks. So if you guys are following on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you guys tune into Twitter, of course, and follow these guys. Let everyone know where to find you. We'll start out with Jacob.
Find me on Twitter, FF_RTDB. Chase and I talked all about this playoff DFS slate last night, but now with ownership and such coming out, I will have my playoff DFS primer on playerprofiler.com out on Friday, most likely. Excited about that. I've already got a lot of best ball content. If you still want to hop in the Gauntlet or the DraftKings contest or the Drafters contest, up on playerprofiler.com. And then I'll probably going to put out a thread tomorrow or Friday on the FFPC playoff challenge strategy. That's a fun one. They have a $200 entry and a $35 entry. And I'm going to be firing a few bullets into the 35. So I'll have a thread on some of the strategy for that contest. Excited for the playoffs. Always the most fun weekend of the year.
Don't leave yet because we still have more announcements coming. Shane, where can we find you?
I don't have any announcements, but you can follow me on the Twitters at Shane is the worst. And then I believe there's links to at least most of the things that I'm on. Dynasty Trades HQ podcast. If you like giving me money, go become a patron. Manic and Chill on the YouTubes, Dynasty Trades in 5, and then my written exploits at various outlets. So just check me out on the Twitters, and you can find all my stuff.
Yeah, and make sure you guys tune into the draft guide coming up, right? Which you guys should be capitalizing on in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, now you're putting pressure on me. Yeah, we'll be having we have a call this weekend. That's kind of putting that out of my mind for a little bit, but thanks, buddy. Yeah, we'll be doing the draft guide for DLF.
Sorry. Anyways, y'all can go check all of our content over there, fantasyintervention.com, youtube.com/fantasyintervention. Of course, over there at or join our circle _ over there on Twitter, and FF_intervention on Twitter as well. Make sure y'all go check out Player Profiler. I have 3 articles coming out this week for Player Profiler since I don't have to deal with, anything else. So all I do is fantasy football anyways. So I have 3 articles coming out this week. Most likely I'll have 4 to 6 articles coming out next week. So go check out playerprofiler.com. And yeah, check out all of our content. Meanwhile, the Dose Score over there at fantasyintervention.com/dose has big plans. And we actually have a few different people looking into it. So go check it out. Jamal, I see you following us everywhere. I'll make sure you're on Twitter as well, because that's where you get the most up-to-date and in-time notes and news if they're on Twitter. So Jamal, go check us out if they're on Twitter at @joinercircle_. You'll be able to find both Jacob, or all 3 of ourselves, Jacob, myself, and Shane over there. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you, Fantasy Football Discussion. Thank you guys for listening to, or letting us intervene with your fantasy football life. We're out.